What happened this past weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia was, yes, horrific. But this is America. If you're a Native American, this is the America that you know. If you're an African American, this is the America that you know. If you're a woman, this is the America that you know. If you're gay, transgender, this is the America that you know. An America of violence. An America that does not want to progress. An America that will do whatever it takes to keep you from progressing. And so what happened in Charlottesville was not necessarily surprising. They said it was a rally to protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. But that was just a ruse. This was intended to be a riot, and it was intended to be a riot to incite violence. And when that violence did not occur as planned, they committed a violent act. But make no mistake about it, look what happened. Imagine if a group of African Americans had gathered with tiki torches one night. Do you think the police would have just stood by and done nothing? Imagine if they were gay and transgender people. Do you think the police would have just stood by and done nothing? The tanks would have rolled out. The riot gear, the rubber bullets, the tear gas. It would not have been a situation where the police stood down, but rather it would have been a situation where the police would have escalated the situation. And yes, our president, there is blood on his hands. There's blood on more than the president's hands. There's blood all over from the media who refuses to call this what it is, a riot, a race riot to incite violence. This was a domestic terroristic act, and those who participated were domestic terrorists. And to call them any less, to call them white nationalists, to call them neo-Nazis, to call them anything else, they are terrorists. And the person who drove the car into the crowd is a murderer, because that was no less than what a member of Al-Qaeda or ISIS would do. And no statement by the president really would have been enough, because the president missed his chance when he was a candidate. And he was asked to disavow David Duke. And he pretended he didn't even know who David Duke was. And yet this was a man who went after the previous president, saying that he was not an American citizen, and demanded that he produce papers to prove that he was who he said he was. There's blood on your hand, Mr. Trump. And Mr. Pence, you do not get off at all easy, because you too refuse to disavow Mr. Duke. You say you're a Christian first, Mr. Pence, but that's not true. You are a politician who parades around as a Christian. Everything you do is about politics, and it's about getting you ahead. This is not about God. This is about you. There's blood on the NFL owners. Yes, the NFL owners, because these are the people you are kowtowing to when you keep Colin Kaepernick unsigned. When you say to Colin Kaepernick that standing for justice was unjust. When you say that black lives do not matter. And so there's blood on your hands too, to the NFL owners. And so this was not a situation where there were many sides. No, there was just one side. And it's always one-sided. And until we're willing to embrace that the threat from America is not from the Muslim world. It's not from Al-Qaeda. It's not from ISIS, but it is from the domestic terrorists, from white people who live and who were born right here in this country. What happened was not surprising. This is America. This is the America that the president has stoked. This is the sleeping giant, so to speak, that is now awakened. And this president is ill-equipped to put it back to sleep, and has no real desire to put it back to sleep, because these are his people. Just one day after this ride, he put out a campaign ad, a re-election ad, no less, in which he says these people are his enemies, and the people that he shows as being his supporters, the Americans that he shows, are all white. So don't say that this is not intended. This is Trump's America. It is not our America. And for every church clergy member who did not speak out on Sunday in their pulpits, who didn't attend a vigil in their town, there is blood on your hands, because the church must speak out. Praise to all those clergy people who stood in solidarity in Charlottesville. But we must do more than just stand. We must speak, and we must act. We must be as loud as those people, and even louder in saying, this will not be our America. We can do it, and we will do it. We, the people, will win.